a crush on there.
On the high seas, life and death can be determined by a sailor's knowledge and skill. Fortunately for me, I was a seasoned veteran who had been sailing an astounding total of 1 time before deciding to get my own boat. So it was imperative that, first and foremost, I become acquainted with the old girl. And as me grandpappy used to say, "There's no faster way to get acquainted with someone than to bathe with them." Now, the boat had been sitting by the Waikamico River for a couple years, collecting dust, leaves, and, well, whatever the hell this was. Saying she was well overdue for a bath was an understatement. Only problem being, when I arrived at Chateau de Montmere to see the boat for the first time since we picked her up that stormy day, I was quick to find that she had been placed in the very back of the property. Which, according to my calculations, was approximately 12.5 nautical miles from any workable space. No tenía agua que necesitaba. If you're following along with me here, there's an obvious problem. The back of the property, there's no water back there. So the natural solution to that problem is to move the boat, and move the boat I did.
You think you can put what? Yeah.
About 4 inches. That's how far it moved.
Are we taking it up there to the hose?
We tried attaching some of the local wildlife to the boat, figuring they'd pull it like a carriage. I mean, if the cowboys could do it, what's stopping us?
Oh, you don't have to. No! No!
But that proved futile
Marley,
when
no.
they got loose and started terrorizing the set.
Marley, no!
And of course, something got broken in the process.
Uh-oh, did that break?
And so we had to call in some help. Not for lack of effort, of course. We ended up needing to use whatever the hell you would call this thing. A, Kubota. We ended up needing a Kubota.
There we go.
My little brother suggested sitting in the boat while my mom and Kubota pulled us. Too bad that didn't come to fruition because honestly, that sounded like a good deal to me. Fun way to go out. And just like that, she'd gone for her first ride. Only without the sails and the sea and everything else you would expect with a sailboat. All of that was still a ways off. Abandoned boats quickly find themselves home to dust, leaves, and whatever little critter desires a nice damp place to sleep. But of all the oddities I found, that which surprised me the most was that Christmas had come early this year. Little white foam particles everywhere. And it was all thanks to this foam board at the front end of the boat. Oy vey, what a mess.
Don't really know what purpose it serves. Maybe makes the boat buoyant or something. Helps it float. Probably have to get that replaced too, I imagine.
It may be a mess, but since we moved the boat, it's a mess I can easily clean, now that I'm in range of the hose. I said now that I'm in range of the... We didn't move the boat in the range of the hose! Are you? Foresight's a virtue, but at least I had a little shade.
So what got your interest in sailing? You don't know?
I don't really know. The freedom of it, and not wanting to work like a 9-to-5. I once heard this idea of a life radius. The idea stated that we spend anywhere between 80 to 90% of our lives within a 5-mile radius of our homes. I'd like to live every day of my life. Waking up and deciding where I live that day and what I want to do. I want to have an adventure.
Yeah.
I don't want to wake up and stare at the same piece of lawn every morning.
Right.
If you're destined to live in a cage, why not give it wings? For whatever reason, along with all the other oddities, the boat found itself home to random pieces of cut wood. Can't say I know the reason why, just that I kept them, because honestly, I have no clue what I'm doing. Putting the wood pieces aside, we still had one glaringly large issue. We went through all that effort to move the boat and didn't think to measure how far the hose would reach beforehand. So we ended up having to ask that useless hose distant cousin for help, the broom and dustpan.
Then they throw it up in the air. Look at that, look at me, I'm a professional.
You were not a cheerleader.
I was a cheerleader. Cheerleaders did not twirl baton. That was the, what were they in the band? You know, what were they?
Drummers.
I am dyed my leg blue. I had to have Ryan beat me off. Looking like a damn smurf.
Hopefully there's no lead.
I know. That's what.
And we're breathing this in without a mask.
Unfortunately, my biggest rookie mistake was disregarding not only my own health, but the health of others. Thankfully, my mom and brother had not been around the boat long enough to be affected by her toxic fumes. I masked up when I had realized what I'd done. The sun was starting to set, but I had one final goal for the evening. Before sundown came, and with no experience whatsoever, I was gonna assemble the boat.
Alright.
So could this be fixed with wood?
That?
Yeah.
Is that fiberglass?
Yeah, but could it be replaced with wood?
So here's the deal. Whatever the hell this thing is, it's broken. Which is fine. I expected to be fixing and replacing things when I took on this project. The problem is, it's hard to do any of that if you don't even know what you're looking at, or what it's even supposed to do.
Caused it to break. I don't really know what this is, so I don't really know what I'm supposed to get replaced.
That said, assembling the boat went, just about as you expected. Without any real plan in place, I grabbed this big ass metal pole and tried shoving it in this hole without thinking about how it was even gonna be held up. By some stroke of genius, I ended up figuring out that there were these lines that came from 2/3 of the way up the mast. What's more, they came down perfectly to where these little brackets were on the side of the boat. But of course, there was one last problem.
There's nothing to hold them together.
You need to get up.
Having no way to connect the mast to the boat, our first adventure together had come to an end. Even if just a small adventure today, it left me eager to see what grand adventures lie ahead for us in the future.